The process of dehumanization is the process that we use to slowly, primarily using words and images, nothing more. Dehumanization is the process of slowly moving people out of, I want to use this table as an example, or this coffee. So here's a group of people that we want to harm. It's a group of people that we hate, a group of people that a leader has told us, here, this tea right here is the cause of all your pain and suffering. So we hate these people and we want to hurt them and we want to see them diminished. But they're within this moral protective zone that we have as humans. So slowly over time, we start using words and images of them that dehumanize them, that move them slowly and slowly and slowly into what we call moral exclusion. They no longer are protected by what we believe is human basic rights. And we see the process of dehumanization at the core of every genocide recorded in history.
Have you ever wondered how people justify racism, slavery, colonization, and now human trafficking? The answer is brutal but simple. Dehumanization. Once you see someone as fully human, with feelings, family, and dreams, their exploitation becomes morally impossible. But if you strip away their humanity, cruelty becomes easy. Today we'll explore how this happened historically and continues today in Africa, the Middle East, and in Asia.
With illegals, poor illegals, illegal aliens, illegal immigrants.
Of illegal aliens. Illegals are
the illegal alien, illegal alien.
Illegal aliens, illegal aliens, illegal criminal aliens.
an illegal alien, an illegal alien.
1,500 illegal aliens.
1,500 illegal aliens.
The illegal criminal aliens of 286,000 illegal aliens. Legal alien, illegal alien. Over 1 million illegal aliens. The illegal aliens.
Illegal criminals.
Violent criminal illegal aliens. Criminal illegal aliens. Illegal aliens. And illegal aliens.
One of the biggest lies that we're being told is that people on the other side of a border is why our lives are hard. It's a narrative that's intentionally designed by the ruling class to dehumanize others and get you to point the blame at your neighbors instead of the people who are actually in power. And this type of divisive propaganda is necessary for extreme levels of oppression. Things like systemic racism, worker exploitation, genocide, and immigration raids are only possible because we live in a system that dehumanizes all of us and separates us from our shared struggle.
Psychologists call it dehumanization, convincing yourself that a person isn't fully human. In slavery, Africans were called property or cargo. In colonization, entire nations were labeled savages and uncivilized. In human trafficking today, victims are treated as commodities rather than people. Once someone is seen as less than human, the normal moral instinct to protect them disappears. And that's exactly what allows systemic brutality to happen. Slavery didn't just happen in the Atlantic world. African kingdoms and Europeans both participated in the transatlantic slave trade. But European traders often used propaganda to depict Africans as uncivilized or inferior, making mass capture psychologically easier and more palatable to Europeans. In the Middle East, the Arabic slave trade lasted for over 1,000 years, spanning Africa, Central Asia, and the Middle East. Slaves were stripped of their names, culture, and identity, dehumanized to prevent resistance or moral guilt. Dehumanization allows empires, traders, and colonizers to normalize violence, torture, and exploitation.
This photo is disturbing, but it's important for us to see. Since 1804, the birth of our country, Haiti has been discredited, demonized, dehumanized by the world, and this photo provides a small visual glimpse into the abuse. In 1839, this cartoon was widespread throughout New York. Haiti had gained independence from France for over 30 years, but the U.S. refused to recognize this black nation because the freedom of Haitians was a threat to the slave system in America. And so this cartoon and many other forms of media were made in order to show how ridiculous it would be for the United States to receive a black diplomat in Washington, D.C. This caricature represents a Haitian ambassador. He's a hideous, subhuman creature hunched over with a long tail. His image and perhaps even his smell is disturbing to the room, as you can tell by the man to his left that's covering up his face. In the speech balloon above his head, the Haitian ambassador is speaking an almost incoherent form of English as he's being introduced to the US president. Although this is just a cartoon, it's important because it visually shows us how the Haitian people were dehumanized in the eyes of the world. We were seen as monsters because we became the first nation to permanently abolish slavery, and the slave trade Haitians became a threat to the existing world order. Haitians paid a high price for their liberty and the liberty of several other Latin American countries as we helped them gain their independence. And to this day, Haitians are still paying this high price as we are still dehumanized in the eyes of the world. But we will keep fighting to change the narrative. Victory will be ours. Oh oui, vive Haiti.
Colonizers did not just take land, they took people's lives and dignity. In Africa, Europe, colonizers described native populations as primitive, childlike, or subhuman, using eugenics. In Asia, colonizers in India, Indonesia, and the Philippines used similar rhetoric to justify forced labor, taxation, and massacres. When humans are framed as objects, entire systems of oppression, forced labor, cultural erasure, and mass killings become acceptable to those in power.
We are not challenging our humanity because we've made it numbers. You now see with a real clear lens how the media tells the stories about what's happening in the Middle East. They will say a family killed in Tel Aviv. They'll make it human, and on the other side they'll go 60 Palestinians. But Palestinians is not a thing. They're not humans. Do you know what I mean? A Palestinian is not a, like when you think of it, if you take that word, you should remove it and just write humans, children, humans, children. I don't think anyone, to borrow your words from the book, would be able to grapple with that constant toll and pain. Because we'd be like, whoa, how many humans and how many children and how many people? What we've been very good at doing as a species through a few people who have assumed power is they've managed to dehumanize the people that it's happening to so that we don't have to question our humanity. So when the US drones a part of the Middle East where it's a wedding or no, it's collateral damage, insurgents. We got but collateral damage is not people.
Dehumanization isn't just history, it's modern. In parts of the Middle East and Asia, migrant workers are often treated as disposable labor, denied legal protection, and exploited for profit. In Africa, trafficking networks exploit children and women for labor. Victims are stripped of their identity, often physically isolated and psychologically conditioned to see themselves as less than human, making escape and resistance harder.
The process that produced the slave was a process of dehumanization, because a human being cannot and will not be a slave. You have to dehumanize that person. And I illustrate it this way at our school. I would take a glass and fill it with some colored liquid and say, now, if you want to fill this same glass with some clear water, what do you have to do with the liquid? And they, of course, would understand you have to remove the colored liquid and replace it with something that's clear. Now, you can go about doing that in different ways, but one thing is clear: you have to remove what's in it in order to replace it with what you want in it. And I would then point out that this is what the captors did with our ancestors who were brought here from Africa. They disinvested these beings with their humanity or of their humanity. And then once they had an empty vessel, they just started pouring in all kinds of other filth and garbage to replace the void that they had created by removing those things that constituted our people's humanity.
The same psychological mechanisms that justified slavery centuries ago are still at work today. Think about it. Could someone personally oversee the beating of another human being, knowing they are fully human? Probably not. That's why dehumanization is so central. There's moral detachment. People stop feeling guilt about harming others. There's control. If a person is seen as property, it's easier to dominate and exploit them. And then if there is a profit, exploitation becomes a business model without moral resistance. Whether it was the transatlantic slave trade, colonial forced labor, or modern trafficking rings, the mechanism is the same: strip humanity and normalize violence. And the impact is profound. Millions of people have died or been tortured simply because someone convinced themselves that their victims weren't fully human. Cultures and communities have been erased. Generations continue to suffer from trauma, poverty, and inequality. Once society recognizes victims as human, the cruelty becomes impossible to ignore. And that's why oppressors fight so hard to keep people dehumanized, invisible, and voiceless.
Story time. I've been doing this education thing for a while. A few years back, I went viral on Facebook for creating a post on how to pronounce Black people's names. I mean, I was phonetically breaking it down because for some reason people can pronounce this, but can't pronounce this. Anyway, there was a woman in those comments who gave me the most clear example of dehumanization that I have ever experienced. And she didn't even mean to. She said, "I'm a white woman, I'm an English teacher. Thank you so much for doing this. I don't know why, but I thought Black people's names were different." And with all of the patience that I could gather at that moment, I said, "I know why. It's because of dehumanization." She grew up in a world, like all of us, that deprives Black people of basic human qualities. So much so that she sees Black people's names and the rules of grammar no longer exist. Ooh!
Dehumanization is the silent engine behind slavery, colonization, and human trafficking. It's why atrocities from the Middle East to Africa and Asia have been allowed to continue for centuries. But recognizing the humanity in every person is the first step toward justice. Once we see each other fully, exploitation and abuse lose their moral cover. If you want to fight oppression, start by seeing people, not just objects or statistics, but as humans with dreams, dignity, and the right to exist freely. If this video gave you insight into these injustices, make sure to hit the like button, share it so that others can learn, and subscribe for more deep dives into history, human rights, and the systems that shape our world.